As a founder, I think it's very important to frame your prism of perception in a way that you try to find opportunities and positive sides in any challenge that you face.
Rashid Aliyev, founder of Stackt, a platform revolutionizing the moving and storage industry, has raised over $1 million. In this episode, he shares his journey of resilience and focus, revealing the bold decisions that helped him disrupt an entire industry.
You as a team need to learn how to reflect and learn on your mistakes.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Spotlight. Today, we brought a special guest for you. It is Rashid Aliyev. He is a dynamic entrepreneur, co-founder and CEO of Stackt, a startup revolutionizing moving and storage industry. It's not been easy getting him here, but thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we waited for 2 months for you to come.
Yeah.
And we finally managed to bring you here. Thanks.
Thanks for having me. Thank you.
Well, just, let's start with yourself. You are an entrepreneur, as I said, founder of the startup Stackt. But how do you generally introduce yourself?
Well, if we go the deep dive into my background, I'm coming from Azerbaijan. That's where I was born and raised for the first 16 years. Came here to study at UCL, where I did information management for business course. And I've been living in London for the past 10 years now, I think. Yeah. And then after graduation, I used to be the president of one of the business societies there at UCL, which was quite a big part of my life as we were arranging and organizing quite large scale speaker events with very prominent speakers to come and speak at UCL, not only to students, but pretty much to anyone who wanted to come and attend these talks. After graduation, I just started building my own ventures. So I think that's pretty much what I've been up to for the past 10 years. I want them.
Yeah, good to know. All right, I want to note this, that when we met in September, you were quite busy, and I invited you then to our podcast, but you were busy because you were taking part in a competition, Startup World Cup, right? And you actually won the Azerbaijan, and you advanced to the finals in San Francisco. Please, can you tell us a little more about this experience and about the competition itself? How did it go in Azerbaijan? And
yeah, absolutely. Well, essentially, starting from what it is, Startup World Cup is it's probably the largest startup competition taking place around the world. The way it operates is that it runs its regional competitions around the world, I think in close to 100 different regions. And then unfortunately for one reason or another, they don't have the regional one here in the UK, but they happen to have the regional one in Azerbaijan. And then the winners of these regional competitions, they fly to San Francisco, where this large scale event is taking place. But by the time we went there, it was close to 80 regional winners that were pretty much on stage in front of 3,000 people, all the top tier VCs and business people coming from the ecosystem in San Francisco, which is probably the number one ecosystem in the world for what we do. And that happened to be that we won the regional one, so we flew there. And San Francisco was an amazing experience overall. It was for me, it was the first time. It was the first time in SF and in California, then in Silicon Valley overall. And as an experience-wise, I think, again, we'd been operating in London primarily, and this is our primary market today, with the plans to expand internationally. But my experience of building a startup or raising finance is primarily built on the local or UK, EU ecosystem.
Yeah.
Although UK is, I think, the second biggest ecosystem in terms of startups and fundraising and overall startup ecosystem as such, after San Francisco and overall US, which is the biggest one currently, and obviously. But still, it was, I think, a great experience to get into that and have some foot on the ground and experience all these differences. And it's in a way that it's a completely different dynamic. And it's very interesting to observe and see why there's so many, there's just a number of factors that pretty much frame why the small piece of land pretty much controls the technological ecosystem and advancement all around the world, because pretty much all the biggest companies that we get to interact with on a daily basis, they are either headquartered or originated from, or at some point been to SF or Silicon Valley, which is very exciting. So it's definitely a great experience. Yeah, we got to finals. We got to be one of the top ones there. So, which was a great experience for us overall. And it opened up huge opportunities, whether with respect to the local network as a VC-backed startup in terms of, investors, the local tier one VCs that are headquartered there, and also potential expansion to the US. Because at the end of the day, UK is the second biggest market in our space.
Yeah.
And we're operating, as you said, in moving and storage space, which is not a sexy space at all, but with a huge potential up there as it is so undisrupted. And it's a huge opportunity for us to evaluate and assess and have some personal experience of what the market looks like, what the market looks like, as it is one of the biggest market and has the biggest market potential in our space. So definitely huge experience and insight.
Okay, amazing. So I'm sure that you already had plans expanding to US, but I'm sure that this experience is going to somehow accelerate that, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Your plans to move there. All right. Right now, you are in UK. So the second market that you will be targeting is US then?
Yeah,
right?
When you're referring to UK, we primarily operate in London and nearby cities. As currently, even when we view in a market where to expand it, I think it would be interesting to dive deep on what we do, as we're not just a traditional moving and storage company that you would imagine.
Yeah, you're gonna get into that as well.
But with respect to us, in terms of the market, I'd say for us, when we evaluate a market, we view it as what's the market potential, right?
Yeah,
because we, having originated from London, which is one of the biggest ones in our space and one of the biggest ones in Europe at the end of the day, when evaluating a market for potential expansion, you are pretty much, whether you're evaluating or eventually expanding, you're pretty much investing the same amount of energy, resources, time into launching a market. So it's very important to ensure that whatever we expand to has a market potential, so that we don't hit the ceiling quite soon enough. And for that reason, as opposed to as of now, our main vision in terms of the expansion is going for bigger cities, as opposed to going and capturing smaller markets around the UK. We would rather capture larger cities, whether that's London or SF is not huge, but the market size is good enough. Or if you go to the Middle Eastern parts, more like Dubai or bigger European cities.
Right. Okay. Yeah, it makes sense. Really, it does. So you just told that you are not a traditional moving and storage company. So can you tell us what is Stackt? What is the difference between other companies? What do you do differently? And you use the word, we're disrupting this market.
Yeah.
And how?
Yeah, I mean, I think we are fundamentally different in terms of the way we operate, because if we even make a step back in terms of what we do and just see and assess the market from a side, moving and storage industry is one of the least technologically disrupted industries in the world, right? And frankly enough, the way you move or store stuff is pretty much the same way that you used to do that over the last 100 years. It's pretty much one-on-one, right? The way you are storing stuff, or physically, if you need to store stuff, you physically have to take your items to a storage facility. You have to get some locker. Usually this is somewhere around, it's not a super pleasant experience in the 21st century when you can essentially get any service you want with a matter of click. Whether you want to order a cab, whether you want to order some food, or order something from Amazon to get delivered in a matter of days. But whenever you move or store, you still you feel like you're going back in time by 100 years, because nothing has changed.
You go and find a driver or a truck,
And you never know who you're dealing with. We tend to call them, with all due respect, tend to call them like a dodgy man and advanced services that you can never trust. You never know if they speak your language. You never know if they will arrive or not, because you usually have some strict deadlines by the time when you have to vacate your flat.
Oh yeah, right, of course.
And you don't have any assurance whatsoever whether they will arrive on time, speak the language you want, do everything in time and efficiently, and how much you will end up paying them, right? Because usually it's just based on an hourly rate that they will charge you at the end, which is actually counterintuitive in a sense that it's in their interest to make the job as little as possible. So that you pay as the hard check upon completion. That's with respect to moving. With respect to storage, it's pretty much the same thing. You know, again, as I said earlier, going to a physical storage facility, every time you need something, physically traveling to a storage facility, trying to retrieve it. And plus, it's just incredibly expensive. Like on average, 20 square foot unit, which is pretty much like this area, you're paying £200 a month.
Yeah. For example, one of the reasons why we're not buying many stuff here, for example, for the apartment, there are some stuff that I would like to have. But whenever I think about moving or storing, I think, should we do this? I mean, of course, it is some kind of decorative, beautiful stuff, but where am I going to put it?
Yep.
And where am I going to store it? For example, we have a plan after when our contract expires here. We don't want to move into one apartment directly. We want to travel around UK for maybe 3 months.
Yep.
So that we could stay in different places, in different areas. But where are we going to store our stuff?
I think it's a bigger trend there as a lot more people coming into the bigger cities. Again, whether you live in London, New York, or wherever you are, then apartments. So that means a lot more people coming to the bigger cities, and on average, statistically, up to 35%, depending on the city, it varies, but up to 35% of city households, they live in rent, which means that with an average rent tenancy being from 1 to 2 years, you're moving on a regular basis from one place to another, right? On top of that, you have another element that the prices are going higher, right? Every year, I think that's super relevant to anyone living in London. For the past, I think, 2 to 3 years, prices has gone up by twice, I believe. And what it means is the higher the price, the smaller the apartment, right? Even the new built developments, if you just compare their size to the Victorian buildings that are around London, 1-bedroom apartment could be literally as small as 40 square meter, maybe 50. 40 is good. It's good, yeah. So what I'm trying to highlight here is all these factors are pretty much taking you, and there's just an obvious trend that the market is growing because of all these big trends that are happening now, and they will continue to grow.
Exactly.
And people move because a lot more younger generation, representatives or people, they're renting more as opposed to buying because prices are just skyrocketing. Plus, the apartments are getting small, and there's not enough space to store your items, right? And you don't want to store. I always tend to give this example as of you don't want to store your skis in the middle of your living room, right? Because it would just look ugly, and you want to store some, and you have a lot of items that you want to store, right? Like it's not that you want to get rid of, but you just don't have physically space at home to store. Whether that's seasonal items, whether that's sports equipment, whether that's some items of a sentimental value. Could be as simple as like a big bear that's both gifted to you, but someone that is super close and valuable for you, right? And this is where we come in, and we see huge opportunity in here. You see that this market is growing. We see that it won't go anywhere. We see that it is very much replicable all around the globe, thanks to our business model, which is full tech. We don't have any capex as a business, and therefore, I think coming to how we operate, with moving part of the business, we're just like Uber, which a platform which allows you to get the price calculated in a matter of seconds, and then connects you with our vetted professional movers that have gone through thorough verification, training, and background checks, after which they arrive they gain access to the platform. We allocate and match them with with the moves. Again, that could be whether storage collection, return, or just moving from one place to another. And then they arrive in branded outfits. They will probably be the only operator in our space that has the body cams on their movers, which means that they're arriving with the body cams, which records the entire move. And this is something that we use for quality assurance and quality assurance purposes. And this, in turn, leads to higher customer satisfaction.
All right.
So this is the moving part. So then you have the storage part.
So if, for example, I were to use your service, I would go to your website or platform.
Yeah.
Do you have an app as well?
We have an app for the movers, but I mean, we don't have an app for the customers.
Okay. All right. So
there's not going to happen because you as a customer, you want to get the price as soon as possible. Right? And if we have to force you to go on it, you will just negatively impact the conversion rate.
Yeah, probably. So yeah, of course, I go into the website and I request a price.
Yep.
And a team comes in. So I don't do anything. Do I prepare something?
Depends on what you want to do.
Oh,
right?
Okay, right.
So whether you want us to pack, if you want to, you can request that as well. You can firstly, as soon as you get to the website, you can book your services in a matter of 5 minutes. You have ready-made tariffs. You just should choose fixed tariff if you're moving house, for example, fixed. I'm moving house. Then it's like a retail or non-retail or any e-commerce experience in the sense that you go and just select, like 1-bedroom flat. Perfect. That's a fixed price there so that you don't have to care about hours or anything. Then you go to the next stage and say, I want to add unlimited packaging plus unlimited packaging materials. Plus, if you have to do the end of tenancy cleaning as part of your contract, you can also add that service and then we should make a payment. That's it. So the entire experience, as opposed to imagine now going and trying to deal with, again, people they don't know, how you get the panels. You literally get that all in a matter of literally 3 minutes.
Oh, okay. So you don't need to message, you don't need to talk about it.
You can, if you get to. We have a dedicated sales and customer service team which operates from 8 a.m. till 11 p.m. in the evening. You can call them, you can have a chat. If you are struggling to select the service or you want to learn more about how we operate and what we do, you can of course do that. But if you want to have the simplest process possible, you can literally do that all on the website and get the price and make a booking. And then on the day of the move, you'll get a notification on your phone with a tracking link. You can track where your meters are. You will receive notifications and SMS along the entire journey as we move forward, as when they've arrived, when they've collected, when they've taken away. And we on our end track all the analytics behind it. So it's not like we just matched you and then said, perfect, you guys need to go, but rather we can see the geographical location of the meter. We can see how long it takes them to arrive, what routes did they take, how long it takes them to carry the items, because we as a tech-driven business, we're all about technology data in order to make decisions. So this is why all this real-time data that we capture during the actual job, they are absolutely crucial for us.
Okay.
And
quite neat.
And yeah, so this is with respect to moving, but frankly, moving is not our main service. We prioritize storage more. Yeah.
Storage more. So how are you different in storing?
It again very similar to the moving space in a sense that, in very simple terms, as opposed to you going to a physical storage facility, right? As opposed to you traveling to a storage facility as such and trying to book storage unit. All you have to do, again, you're just going to the website, either just putting the list of the items you want to store or selecting how much space you need. Simple as that. And then you can also add packing the services if you want to, and then make the payment. What happens then? We come and collect, either pack and collect or just come and collect everything right here on the doorstep, take it to our storage facilities, and you get a digital list of all your items. And this is a super exciting thing because what it allows you to is you can request a specific item back to be delivered to in a matter of 48 hours at any point in time. You can say, I want my skis to be delivered to me. We will deliver to you in 48 hours. We will automatically downgrade your tariff, something that you never get with physical storage facility. Even if you get with household cash, it's exactly.
Yeah.
In our case, it's automatically get downgraded, so you never waste money on empty space. And it is twice as cheap. It's twice as cheap in comparison to traditional storage facilities. This is essentially how we are fundamentally disrupting the space, is that you're not, as a customer, it's not like a premium service you're getting. You're not only getting a way better, a way smoother and the way convenient experience, but you're also getting the price, which is way lower at the end of the day.
Saying but twice, it's quite a difference. It's not like half the price.
I mean, it's quite expensive. And if you were to compare, on, like as I said, an example of 20 square foot unit on average with a traditional big yellow access or you name it, it would cost you around £200, close to £200 a month. With us, 20 square foot unit costs you from £80 to £100. So it's literally what the price difference on top of having all the convenience of moving your items, which is a huge, huge difference.
All right, that's great. So how did you come up with this idea? We talked a lot about your product. Yeah, how did you come up with this idea, and what made you choose this industry?
I think there's a lot of founders that launch businesses. It comes from their personal pain. So I lived in London for the past 10 years, as we just discussed at the start of our conversation. Yeah, I used to be a student here. I used to move a bunch of times. I had to use storage facilities when I was, whether I was living at home and it just didn't, or I was renting an apartment that just didn't have enough space at home, or I was leaving back home for summer and had to store my items somewhere before I come back to London and find another place to leave. And I think that personal pain brought us to actually look into this space. And I think the trigger was the pandemic. During the pandemic times, because Stackt has its origins during the pandemic, right? So what triggered us by then is when pandemic happened and London went into lockdown, a lot of students, they went back home. That was back in March 2020 or something. And they left back home thinking that they will come back in a month.
In a month or two.
Then what happened? Very unexpectedly, borders closed and the world has changed and you couldn't travel anymore. But you had your personal belongings at home.
Exactly.
Right? Here in London. Which meant that you're forced to pay a few £1,000s a year.
Yeah.
So a few £1,000 a month.
A month.
Yeah, just for the rent, just because your personal items in there. I think that was like a big trigger that made us to look into the space, because we just decided to help the students out. Because I had this very close connection to the student community after graduation, previously being the president of a society. Then we decided, okay, look, seems like a lot of students have this problem. Let's just help them out. And then the rest is the history, as they say, right? So essentially, we just decided let's help these students out. We did it personally quite a few times. Saw that it's such a huge pain, and a lot more people need this. And I think after that, we started building a technological solution around it, saying that, okay, how we can automate the processes, how we make the processes more efficient. Because at the end of the day, 99% of all the providers, they're old school. They don't use any technology, which actually reflect on the customer service that they provide, which means that it's very low class. It is super expensive because they're very inefficient. Now, when we bring in the technology into the game, that changes, the right technology and the right operations, then that changes the game it operates, because all of a sudden you're getting a lot more efficient and a lot more customer centric, because you have a lot of data that comes in that you base your decisions upon. And I think this is what our main value proposition is as a business, automating endless number of manual tasks and things that happen during any storage or move. That's something that allows us to grow, because at the end of the day, we are platform, whether you call us a marketplace or whatever, and we have zero capex as a business. So
let's talk a little more about what made it happen. Like, actually, who made it happen? You've achieved quite important milestones through this 4 years, right? You started in 2020.
Just over 3 years.
Almost 3 years. Yeah. You managed to build a profitable business.
Not profitable as of yet, but generating revenues.
Okay. Yes. All right. Not profitable. Revenue generating startup.
Yeah.
You raised over £1 million of investment. You took part in, and right now you're scaling your business.
Yep.
So what would you say that were the very important milestones that you reached during the business? And what kind of shifts or decisions or actions help you to get to the next milestone?
Okay.
It can be an action, or it can be some internal decisions that you made.
I think at every stage of growth,
Yeah.
there are certain uniquely relevant challenges. And when you grow the business, it's like a ladder, right? So every time when you want to move on to the next stage, you have to have new skills, learn new skills, and expertise, knowledge in order to make that next leap forward, right? Because every single stage has its own unique challenges that you're trying to overcome, which requires its own set of skills and knowledge and expertise in order to go through, right? So there is no one set, because we've gone through a number of stages from being like idea stage to, and we've been for the first, when we launched back in mid 2021, we were, for the first 10 months, we were operating profitably.
Yeah, that's what I meant, because
we were operating, like we had like zero marketing budget. We were operating profitably, but 10 months later, we realized that, okay, it seems like we found something that can become very global. And in order to build that and scale that, you need some external resources as of funding. And because as a 10-month-old startup, we had such a strong metrics and numbers, and I think by the time we generated over so having generated around close to £160,000 of revenue, we decided that we want to raise some external funding. And having started the fundraising process, as a result of it, we closed the round which was the total of £500,000 with 3 VCs on board, which was led by hedge ventures here in the UK, alongside one European and one US-based VC. That was quite good in a sense of the raise, because it was a pre-seed round, and usually pre-seed rounds are raised from friends and family or angels. And because we had such a strong traction at start, we managed to secure some institutional funding right away, which are VCs. Having done that, we grew 5 times.
Yeah.
And then we secured another close to £800,000 or something, which was a seed round. And after that, we grew another 5 times, I guess, literally over the past 6 months. Now, what contributed to that as such? I think at every stage, as I said, there are certain challenges, but I think if I were to relate to the latest sprint that we did and the latest 5x growth, I think one of the key things is the team, probably. Not probably, but for sure. Of course, like the way you operate, the way your success as a startup is very much based on the team that you have. And we were very fortunate to build the right team with the right people and the right expertise.
In order to build the right team, what did you do to build the right team? Or, how did you approach this team building in order to get the right people? Because that's the key.
But it's pretty much like building a team. Well, you as a founder, you're trying to share your vision and what you're trying to build here, and trying to convince people whether that would work or not.
Yeah.
Right. And the same logic applies when you're fundraising or you want to get the right people into your team, right? Because when you approach someone who is quite senior already, it's about communicating that bigger vision, that this something small can become very, very big, right? And if they are to believe your vision, if they were to buy into this vision and believe in what you're building, then that makes them exciting, and they want to be the part of this journey that you're building, right? So I think it's very much similar to what you do with fundraising. With fundraising, you are selling this vision, you are trying to communicate this journey and what you're kind of where it can get to, and investors buy in with their expertise and finances. When you do with a team, the team members or future team members, they come in with their expertise and their time, right? Because we operate in a very competitive environment where there's so many different, very promising startups, right? And so many opportunities, and we all have limited time in a day and in a life. So they have to make a decision of where do they want to devote and invest that time and resource over the next years across their lifetime.
Yeah. Okay. So coming to the team, for example, what kind of approach do you take? Are you the one scouting for like specific people, or do you generally come to you?
We're quite early stage yet.
Yes.
So the earlier you are, the more things that you have to do yourself. I think at start, we were just doing it ourselves. And these are whether through, it could be things to platforms like LinkedIn, or it could be personal introductions, or it could be maybe people that you've met somewhere or that you knew for quite a while that you feel like they would be a great addition to the team. But as we scale, you start building processes around it, because the decisions of hiring a person and whether the person would be the right match to the team or not is a very costly decision.
Exactly, because you
don't know if a person, exactly. You don't know if a person will work out. You don't know whether it will be.
You pay salary at the time.
Yeah, I think it's not even more about the salary. When you're building like a fast-growing startup, it's more about time.
Yeah, right.
Right. It's time, because the person joins, and if they don't deliver results over the past, let's say 6 months or 3 months, this is pretty much, you've burned hundreds of thousands of pounds already in this 3 months. You've paid salaries, then your cash. You burn a bunch of cash and time, and the opportunity cost is quite high. So what I'm leading to is, the bigger you get, this becomes a bigger priority. Not as it wasn't a priority earlier, but you start taking things more of a, not process, but maybe like a structured way. So you learn how to hire people. So there are certain procedures that they go through before you get them in, whether like a series of interview stages or tasks. So that you make a bet on, you're not making a bet just on your gut feeling, but rather on gut feeling plus some analytical data that you get out.
Of course.
Right. It's like, I was listening to another podcast with the founder of Bolt.
Okay.
And at the time, essentially at the start, when the guy was literally 19 years old, like with a big idea to build this, he was looking for a technical co-founder. He did like 30 interviews, or spoke to 30 people. It didn't go well. And then he started posting in different forums and search platforms. And someone just replied him, said, "Hey, let's catch up." Right? And they eventually met. They had the chat, and then after the meeting, the guy messaged him back and said, "Hey, let's meet up one more time." And then they meet up again, and he showed some initial things that he built just based on their first conversation. And right after that, the original founder made the decision that perfect, you hired, and the guy now is the technical co-founder as of today, and both of them, I think, one of the youngest billionaires in the world, maybe in Europe. But what I'm into at the early stages, right, when he was interviewing the other candidate, he wasn't going through multiple stages of interview, tests, and everything, right? It's more of a gust.
Yeah, exactly. One conversation. Okay, are you in or not?
Exactly.
Something like that.
As you scale,
yeah,
you have to take not gotta be
systems.
Yeah, you need to have some systems to try to minimize the risk of the wrong hire as much as you can. Yeah. Because it's not always about the expertise alone, right? The person could be genius, but it would be just a very bad fit to the team,
exactly,
which is even more damage in the long term. So yeah.
So do you interview them yourself at the moment?
Yeah, I mean, depends on the seniority level. I mean, our team is not a huge team, right? We're close to around 20 people, maybe slightly more. If that's someone senior, yes, I'm fully involved. Whether that's head of sales or head of marketing, I'm fully involved in the hiring process. If that's someone from sales manager, for example, then I'm coming in more at the final stages, because there's a way bigger funnel at the start.
Yeah,
they go through, and then at the final stage which doesn't necessarily require my personal approval as such, because my main objective as a founder is to build the right team, and if I have the right head of sales, I need to trust his judgment. So if he feels like that, because he has more experience, right?
And he's the one.
I'm not the best head of
with them.
Exactly, right. First, the great guy, the ones who working with them. Plus, I'm not. If I were the best head of sales, I wouldn't have to hire anyone. So if we have the head of sales, so that person genuinely has way more by default, way more experience. So not that my input would be would have such a huge influence in terms of their decision. So you pretty much learn to delegate a lot more things to your team that you trust.
Yeah. Okay. Now let's talk just a little bit about fundraising. How was your experience? Because you started fundraising after pandemic, which was not the great time for fundraising. And how did it go? So can you tell us, for example, something, what lesson you took from that experience and what kind of decision made the fundraising happen, for example?
Well, touching on the point of what was the best time, I think overall lockdown and pandemic was actually wonderful times to fund it, but then it went down. So
right after that.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, when we raised our first one, that was not that bad. So that was, and we turned to the
lockdown.
It wasn't during, it was post-lockdown, but it wasn't as bad as it went after. So our pre-seed was still good time. Our seed wasn't that good.
All right.
I mean, we raised good, but the timing in terms of the opportunities and overall investor appetite, because the bubble burst, which right after the pandemic, a lot of investors lost the value of their shares. Businesses started firing thousands of people. I remember I was reading stats like Facebook fired 70,000 people or something. I may be wrong. Don't take my word for it, but there were a lot of cases. So it wasn't the best time in the VC and the startup ecosystem. They used to refer to it as a VC winter or something, right? So it is it is improving now. But the experience that we accumulated when we were raising during those tough times have taught us a lot. And I think any experience that you go through, it's more about the prism of perception, right? You as a founder, I think it's very important to frame your prism of perception in a way that you try to find opportunities and positive sides in any challenge that you face, right? So those challenges that we had, they have taught us a lot. Maybe we have learned them the hard way, but now looking back, we are absolutely fortunate, even within the team, absolutely fortunate to all those challenges that we were going through, because they framed our decision-making and approach to how we run things today.
Okay. So what were those? I mean,
well, it's a very long conversation if we go to, depending on where you want to, what direction you want to do that. But simple as it could be things that as
like very.
I mean, if we were to focus on fundraising, it's just, I think one thing that you need to remember is what resilience is. One key thing is that you're going to get rejected hundreds of times. And you just get to learn that, it's okay to get rejected, right? When you started may be difficult because, it's not easy to continue pursuing a bigger vision when a lot of people tell you that we don't believe in that would work. But in fact, when you actually look at all the bigger companies around the world, every single company goes through that. Every single big company had some close to bankruptcy situation at some point throughout their journey, whether that's Tesla or you name it, any single company, any single founder goes through this at start of his journey, goes through the bunch of rejections when fundraising or when building something. And I think this is absolutely normal because you get to learn that this is how it operates. You get to reflect a lot and refine your vision, your product based on this feedback as well to a certain extent.
Yeah.
So, but once you overcome these kind of challenges a few times, you build that resilience and you build the confidence in yourself and the team that you've built, that any challenge that may come out in future, you will overcome.
It's actually something that you need to solve. Yeah, there's some kind of obstacle, but you just need to find an approach.
You're still becoming more and more positive and more confident because you've done it in multiple times. Well, you build some strengths within, personally as a founder and the team, and then you are more confident as, look, guys, we did it so many times.
Yeah.
Whatever happens, we'll go over it, but we'll find a way. Plus, the fact that you've overcome these challenges previously should have probably taught you a number of lessons that you can utilize now and make the better decisions. As if, a very simple example being prioritizing. So when essentially you have a challenge, and I think this is very relevant to any founder, is that you have to raise funds, you're running out of cash. And the very instinctive thing is to go and, you have a list of contacts and literally to go and to go to all the contacts that you may have and try to speak to our current investors, future investors, etc., which is not the best tactics, right? And you actually learn it at the end is that it's way more productive to prioritize, not revenue. No. I mean, yeah, of course, revenue is important, but in terms of the fundraising, prioritize certain leads or certain contacts that has a higher potential to convert and spend and invest more time. Because at the end of the day, you have 24 hours during the day.
Yeah, exactly.
And as we make decisions on a daily basis, what's more important for us, what's not, the same applies to any sales process. The same applies to fundraising, where you just trying to understand which potential candidate or potential investor is more likely to convert because of X, Y, Z, and just trying to invest more time and resources into that. Oh. And again, there are a lot of things. It's like a conversation for 5 hours, but it's in a nutshell, that's a very simple example.
Yeah. Okay. Well, looking back in your entrepreneurial journey, what would you say were the best decisions that you've made? I mean, do you sometimes have you ever reflected on what you've done and say but I'm glad that I went through that, or I'm glad that I chose that way and not the other, for example, those kind of decisions, the best ones that took you into another level?
I think there are a lot of this. I mean, there are a lot of these decisions because pretty much as a founder, when you build something, the entire journey is built on the decisions that you make.
Exactly.
Decision is the road that you're chasing, and your decision to make a right turn, left turn, go straight at some point. Maybe make a pause and reflect, decide what works best. So there are a lot of cases, but I think if I were to give you one specific example, probably the decision that we did, again, reflecting on this latest growth and results that we've achieved, probably less than a year ago, we decided that was right after we raised our seed in round. We decided that we will do a strategy session with my co-founder. It was like a deep dive, 2 weeks in person, when we were pretty much reflecting and going through everything that we've done, or reflecting on the past few years and trying to understand what were the good things that we did and what didn't work out, right? And maybe try to understand what are the biggest decisions that we have to make as a result of that strategy session that would help us make another leap forward.
Okay.
I think that, and as a result of that, what we realized is, of course, there were a lot of things that we've changed as a result of it. But one of the things, if we were to pick one example, was our approach to hypothesis testing. As a startup, when you're building things, the time is what matters, and very important. And essentially, when you have a very ambitious team, which wants to build a lot of stuff, it's very important to approach these ideas in the right manner. What I mean by that is you come up with an idea saying that, hey, you know what, let's build something and add some new feature to one of the products. That looks like super exciting, super nice. And then you get on a call with the team. And it's very common, by the way. A lot of founders tend to make these mistakes, and we used to do that a lot as well. You get on a call with the team, you start, brainstorming and building it would be cool to add this, it would be cool to add another thing. And at the end of the call, or maybe multiple calls, you have this big vision, or you have this big vision of what this feature should look like, right? Although it started from something very small. And then you say, okay, let's go and build it, right? But because this small idea now became to the final product, and you said, oh, actually, it would be so cool to have all at once. You start building this, because it's not something small, but it's rather more of a comprehensive solution. It takes you months and months to build it. And then you release the product or the feature to the customers and see that no one actually wants that.
Doesn't really care about
Doesn't really care about it, right? And now reflecting on that, what you understand is that, okay, you've spent months of work and resources and time on building something that wasn't really
as productive as you as you thought.
Right, because, all our thoughts, and they're all subjective, right? You would never know whether it really actually works or not. So one of the key things that we learned as a result is that whenever we have any idea like that, what we're trying to do is to build a very, very MVP, minimal viable product that you can push to the customers and see whether it works or not. The very a minimal variation of it. Get some data and see how it works. Because probably if you do it step by step with incremental improvements, you're really improving the final or refining the final solution as you go, so that the final solution is more tailored to what the customer really wants based on all the data that you get. Yeah. And I think if I were to choose one things that we learned, that a lot of things that you learn, but if I were to choose an example, that example is, I think, is a very good reflection of the things that you as a team need to learn how to reflect and learn on your mistakes.
Yeah, I see. That's great. Yeah, very useful, because it will be, because it's practical, very practical, and to time and cost saving. I think we could have talked a lot more about, in general, your journey in the business and the lessons you learned.
I think we covered quite a lot.
But we are running out of time. We're trying. Yep. But the one thing that we recently added is a section that I call Behind the Biz, just to know you a little bit better as a person rather than your business side. So I have very quick question. So what do you like the most about London?
People, I think.
What's the difference between Azerbaijan people in Azerbaijan?
No, not in that sense. Not in that sense. Don't get me wrong. People as of London has a very high concentration of very talented people that are coming to London from all around the world. Although recently it's changing a lot, because I personally think that it's not moving in the right direction as such. But historically, London and that was one of the reasons why I decided to come and study here.
Okay,
is simply because there are so many people all around the world that are trying to come and pursue their dreams or build something here, which allows you huge access. That's one of the reasons why Silicon Valley is such a huge success, where you have this concentration of the right people, talent, and resources. So I think that's if I were to choose one, that would be.
Okay. That would be again, business related. Good. So, what is one food that you could always eat?
Wow. I'm a big foodie, so I wouldn't be able to choose one, because that very much depends on the vibe and mood and what you want to eat and cuisine. I could say, Azerbaijan food is amazing.
Oh yeah, I know. I love Azerbaijan food. Yeah, so it seems like Azerbaijan is not that big of a country, but you have so many different types of food.
Yeah, Azerbaijan is very rich in terms of culture. It's very rich in terms of history and cuisine in the first place, of course. This is why I have a lot of friends that come to Azerbaijan to visit me, and so that we can show them around. And there was never a case that people were not amazed by the food. So it's one of the biggest things. So, but you have to get prepared that you will gain a few kilos. But
I think it worth it, Yeah,
worse for it. It definitely was.
Yeah, definitely. So you can't say one food that.
Yeah, I wouldn't be, but I'll say a cuisines maybe Italian, but Italian, but I wouldn't be.
True. You wouldn't be able to choose one food.
No.
All right, I see. So what is one activity that helps you rewind to gather your energy?
Sports, meditating, maybe.
Meditating.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, what kind of sports?
I think it's very unique to every single individual. For me, it's any class activities like boxing or something, or gym or swimming, or I think every single person is unique, so it's really important to find what works for you. For me, it's usually the gym. I used to run for some time. So recently started doing some boxing. So I'm also experimenting, testing hypotheses. Yeah.
I see. Okay. So, if you had to read only one book for the rest of your life, what would it be?
I was actually thinking about that. I wouldn't be able, again, this is similar to
food, right?
To food, right? Because I'm getting, if there's something very stable and only one and they don't have the freedom to choose, for me, it gets very boring.
Of course. That's the point of these questions. Yeah.
Let's do this. We talked a lot about business. So I'll just choose one which would be in the business context. I think in the business context, one of the books that I really loved is Entrepreneurial Myth.
Entrepreneurial
Myth. Yeah, absolutely. I think that's, I read that book a few times. Every time I was reading that, it's all about how to build the team that you can delegate and how to build the processes so that you can build a replicable model and scalable model. So I think for any person, whether you have not even a startup related, the book is actually based on the lady that builds her own bakery, if I'm not mistaken. So whether that's a traditional business or any kind of business, that would be huge value.
Okay, well, thank you. Entrepreneurial Myth.
Yeah.
I want to check this out. So, what would you say one trait, like one characteristic of yours that played the biggest role in your success? Resilience. Yeah. I hear this a lot. Resilience. So
I've done with a short answer.
Okay, good. Yeah, you answered this really, really without any hesitation. What is the critical lesson that you got from your experience or any other prior experience? It doesn't have to be any business experience.
Okay.
Like very important lesson.
Lesson from an experience.
Yeah. It doesn't have to be business.
It's all about people.
It's all about people.
Yeah. It's we as human beings, we are super susceptible creatures, very much influenced by things that happen around us. And I think as being social creatures, we are heavily influenced by the people that are around us.
Yeah.
So I think having the right people around us, whether in a personal context or business context, whether having the right team or the right life partner or the right friend, pretty much these are the people that frame our prism of perception that I was referring to earlier.
Oh.
So it's all about people. You just need to have the right people around you and be very careful with that.
Great answer. Very good. Thank you very much.
Cool. Thanks for having me. It was a pleasure.
Thank you. We had a great conversation. Although there were some interruptions that actually threw me out from time to time from our conversation.
Sure. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. And thank you very much. We will add Rashid's detail in the description. And if somebody would like to contact you,
sure.
Would it be all right? Okay.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.